now we're going to get started on cutting the ceiling. And load your brush up, but be careful to not overload it. Now, the nice thing about, again, this sash brush is it does tuck nicely into these little corners right here. Because if you had a straight brush, it makes it a little bit harder and you're gonna bump. Corners are difficult anyway. A little bit less paint is okay because you can always reload it. And I just tuck my brush, and a lot of times you'll have this nice line that the sheetrocker has cut with his blade. Most walls will have that, and then I just kind of come back on the opposite side of my brush and tuck it back in there just to finish this out and make sure you don't leave anything heavy. And I just kind of brush it down, and we can always clean that up when we come back to do this side. This is pretty dry, just to roll this out a little bit. And then down. And then I reload, just wiping off a little bit. Usually don't have too much on the opposite side, but if you do, make sure you wipe it off. And then I just take and dab a little bit off, and then I start again, and you tuck it up in there. Take your time, then come back, lay your brush flat so you can kind of cover up that light line. And you, again, you will cover that up on your second pass. If you still have enough on your brush, cut a little bit further. Get a little bit more paint, dab it off. Kind of fill it in. Some people go down like this. It's kind of preference. I go in the same direction. The more you do this, the faster you'll get. And take your time. Make sure you have a rag handy just in case you'd bump the ceiling. It's easier to catch right away than it is for it to dry. And then I load my brush up, making sure that I don't have very much on the end of my roller, and roll just close enough just to get that brush mark smoothed out. And here again, you don't want to get excess paint on the handle side of your roller, because then that drips and it makes a line, makes a mess. So try to keep that as clean as possible. Smooth it out. And it doesn't hurt if you go down a little ways. You're going to fill that all in. Just makes it easier when you go to fill in with the 9-inch. Take your time. It's not a race. I have found also, I used to think a smaller brush was easier for a cut line, but it's opposite. You get a little bit bigger brush and you get a firm brush like what we have provided, and it is way easier to cut along an edge than if you have a small brush. It glides longer, fills in nicer. And again, have your rag handy just in case the end of your roller happens to bump the ceiling. It would be great if we could go all the way to the top, but we can't. We just get as close as we can. A little extra tip is sometimes you load your brush up too heavy. Some people do. Make sure that you get that excess off of your brush, because that's where you get in trouble. And it just puts too much on your ceiling. And say you had it on this back side, when you're cutting, if you would accidentally come back, you would have too much paint and it would touch your ceiling, and then you'd have a mess on your ceiling. Another quick tip is I have found on a rough ceiling or a heavy textured wall, you can also go back into your cut line and it will fill that in if it's not a straight line. This is a smoother wall with less texture. And if you go backwards like this, opposite, it will fill in and make this nice straight line. And that's just a little extra tip for you.